Hey folks, I'm Mike. Do you hate ads? I hate ads. You know what I like? Patreon.com/Inkdependence. It keeps this blog ad-free.
Hello, folks, and welcome to Inkdependence.com. I'm Mike, and this is a pin. This is a Franklin-Christoph pin, as you can see from the little leather zipper pouch and the logo here and on the back. So, since this is a Franklin-Christoph pin, a couple of disclaimers are appropriate. The first is that this was given to me on loan. I am giving it back. It's not mine. And the second is that my wife works for Franklin-Christoph. Audrey is... a person you might have met if you bought a pin at a Franklin-Christoph pin show. She goes to most of them. But I do my best not to let these things influence my reviews, and I don't think they do. So with those disclaimers out of the way, let's look at this pin. This is... There we go. This is the Franklin-Christoph 451. The 451 is an acrylic pin. It is sort of a melding of a couple of different pins from the Franklin-Christoph line. The first is that 45 that comes from the Model 45, as you can see here. The 45 is a small pocket pen, and actually the 451 and the 45 are identical in this area. So you have both of them have the same cap. In fact, the caps are interchangeable. The nibs are the same, the sections are the same, the threadings are the same, the taper here, all of that the same. So if you like your Model 45s, you're also going to like the feel of the Model 451. And also, of course, if you have 45s and you really like the cap, you can switch them over. They fit just fine. It actually looks kind of snazzy with the black body and then a fancy cap. Right now, there are only black bodies for 451s in this IPO, the initial pin offering. You can see that it has IPO actually engraved right there on the body of the pen. This 45 is actually an IPO as well. And they do an IPO for a little bit after a pin is introduced, and the price is lower. So right now these are going for $115 with a regular steel nib. You add $10 for a SIG, which is a wonderful nib. You add $20 for a Masayama grind, which includes needle points and stubs and italics and all kinds of great stuff. So the same nibs are available on both of these. These are number 5 Yovo nibs, and you can get them in steel or you can get them in 14K gold if you like, and you can get all of those various nib grinds and that sort of thing on there. So pretty great. This one was actually set up for me by my wife Audrey. She's getting to be very, very good at adjusting nibs, and I'm glad that someone can do that here in this house of a million nibs because, well, sometimes there's something a little more than I can handle, so I give it to her. Anyway, this is a great pen, and the other pen that that fits in the line next to this one is one that I don't have, which is the Model 25. And from the Model 25, you get this sort of the clip orientation so that you have a nib down carry, which does alarm some folks, I'm sure. In fact, I've heard people say, hey, isn't that going to make the pen bleed all into the cap? I hear you're not supposed to store pens nib down. Of course you can store pens nib down. That's how all sort of like desk pens and that sort of thing used to work. And in fact, I tend to store my nib at least slightly down if I can. But carrying it around in a pocket, yeah, I get it. That might be a little bit weird. So I carried this around in my pocket for a good couple of weeks. This has been in shirt pockets, it's been in pants pockets, it's been in jeans pockets, it's been in like the placket of a shirt. I've carried it around in a case occasionally, like a rickshaw 2-pin case, that kind of thing. And I have not cleaned out this cap. As you can see, no ink. Now, there were a couple of days when it was around 80 or so, and I was booking it across campus, and it was kind of hot, and so I got some condensation in here, but no actual ink. There is one place, where is it? Ah, there it is. See a little dark area, perhaps? It's kind of hard to tell, but I think what happened there is I went like this, because there's also a corresponding little stripe there. So I think I always went like that and rubbed the top of the nib against it. This is a pretty juicy broad nib, and so it might have just written on it a little bit, but no ink leaked into the cap, which I was actually kind of surprised about. All right, so we've talked about nibs and its relation to the 45 and the 20. As for filling systems, you can, well, this is a bit of an upgrade and a bit of a side grade, depending on how you view it. The Model 45 is great because you can eyedropper this little guy, or you can use a cartridge. I tend to use a cartridge. Eyedroppering is not really my jam, especially when you can't see through the pen. It doesn't seem like there's much of a point. And this is a pocket pen, so I'm not writing tomes with it most of the time. So I use a cartridge in there and just refill the cartridge. However, you can't put a converter in here because it's simply too small, and that frustrates some folks. So the 451, you can add a converter to Well, I mean, it'll come with a converter, but you can use a converter with it, or you can use a cartridge if you like, but you can't eyedropper it. This is not an eyedropperable pen because it is clipped. Maybe they'll make unclipped versions in the future. I don't know, but the reason the clip matters is because in order to mount the clip, you have a little cutout and you have a little screw, and that makes it a hole into where the ink would be, and so it could just come out here, and indeed probably would. I mean, I guess you could fix it so it wouldn't, but here's a bit of advice. Don't take these like heroic measures by adding epoxy or silicone sealant or something in the back, because that will void your warranty with Franklin-Christoph. Don't do that. So if you want to eyedropper a pen, probably not this one. Also, a black eyedropper. Most people who want an eyedropper want to be able to see the ink inside. So maybe at some point they'll make one that's eyedropperable, but certainly not yet. So that's filling systems. You get cartridge or converter with this one. Currently, it's only sold with party colored caps and not a differently colored body. All of the bodies are black. I've been rocking this cool blue, which I think is probably the best one. Second best is probably this red. It's a very nice red. It's not as bright as our Venetian red. It's kind of a cranberry to my eye. Third best for me probably is this black cap. It makes it look like a very stately, like understated black pen. This could go to any boardroom, I think, and you'd be just fine with it. And there's also this sort of Eastery looking purple glazed icy pen cap, which is not really my style because I don't really do purple that much, but it does look very nice on this pen actually, because you can see the whole nib and everything through it. Some of the black shows through and the translucency. It's very pretty. So what else? You can post this pen in two ways, just like the Model 25, which also has this odd downward facing nib arrangement. You can put the cap underneath the clip, or you can post just like the 45 does. Here is a tip for people who are going to do that. Sometimes with the 45 and also Model 20s and that sort of thing, which are meant to be like slipped onto things, they want to really just jam that top on there, and you don't want to do that. They're looking to hear a click or something like that, and if you hear a click on these, that's a problem. So you can just kind of set it on top of there, and then it actually takes a little bit of force, pops off. But it definitely isn't going to come off if you just gently set it on there. Also, if you do put it on there real tight and then try to turn it, you can't unscrew the finial, which is weird. Don't jam it on there, is what I'm saying. The other thing about posting this pen is that when you do so, it makes it very, very long. So look how long this guy is here in my giant hands. It doesn't really add any weight, so if you don't mind the awesome length that you get from posting it, you can totally do that. But I tend to post it underneath the clip. It's quick and easy. The clip itself is quite good. As I said, it's been riding around in all kinds of different sorts of pockets and that sort of thing with no issues at all. All right. As far as lengths and diameters and that sort of thing, let's pull out a whole bunch of other pens and look at it next to those and do some comparisons for that bit. Hold on just a sec. Okay, so here it is next to a whole bunch of other pens, going from, let's make sure you're shook down. Yep, there we go. Going from smallest to largest. This is, of course, its cousin, the 45. You've also got here the coral looking, not coral, I guess it's more, anyway, it's tangerine. This is the Sailor 1911 Standard. Next to that, the 3776 from Platinum. This is the Nice Pure version, my favorite version. This is the Eco T from TWSBI. The Model 2 from Franklin-Christoph, the 451 that we've just been looking at. Then here on the biggest end are the TWSBI VAC 700 and the Kanilea Mauna Kea. These are all pretty big pens over on this side. The 451 is about as long as these two. It's a little bit longer than the Model 2, but just a hair, just a smidge. You can barely tell. So it's about the same size as one of these if you have one handy, a little bit longer than the Eco. It is, however, substantially thinner than these. If you look at them end on, it is a much smaller sort of pen all the way around. It does have good diameters and such, so here's for comparison's sake, the capped length on this is 5.7 inches, so just under 6 inches long. So these are all around the same length. Posted, it goes up to 6.9, which is pretty long. I'll look at all these posted in a sec. Uncapped, 4.45 inches, so about 5.5, a little bit shorter. And then the reason it's only a little bit shorter is because there's not actually that much space in this cap. Let me see if you can see the nib. There it is. So the nib ends like here. The reason they want to do that is to keep the volume of air small up here so it won't dry out. And in fact, I've had no dry outs or skips or hard starts or anything with this pen, or with my 45, which is a pocket pen and doesn't get used all the time. So, good design there. Let's go ahead and take all the caps off here and post these guys. Okay, so looking at these uncapped, you'll notice that it's a very long pin. It really comes up about the same as the TWSBI VAC 700 in terms of a capped posted pin length. And posted, this one is actually a little bit heavy, although it puts a lot of weight here. Posted here, you won't even notice the difference between posted and unposted, honestly, in terms of weight. The Mauna-Kea, of course, doesn't post. These guys are non-posters. So, pretty good length of a pen. It's longer than the TWSBI Eco. It's longer than all the rest of these, as you can see. And again, that posted is about almost 7 inches, really. Let's go ahead and look at them uncapped and unposted. All right, there we go. So this is the look of all these guys, uncapped and unposted. And uncapped and unposted, the 451 is actually the longest by a little bit, even over these two, which are pretty much identical. So pretty long pen, but again, very light because it's just made of full acrylic, and so you know, gives you a nice feel. And uncapped, this is about 5.5 inches, a little under. Also, since we're looking at these uncapped and such. These all have a pretty good width in the section. The section here goes between about 10.1 millimeters up here at the thinnest, all the way back to almost 12 at 11.8 millimeters. So a good bit of difference there, and that's right in my comfort zone for sections. So if you like about a 10 or 11 millimeter section, it's pretty great on this pen. Also, a thing to notice is that there is a little bit of a step here, just as there is with the 45. Well, let's see, does the 45 have it? Yeah, 45 has just a little bit of a step too. Not very much, but a little bit of one. And that will, if you put your fingers here, I guess you'll notice the step. But, I mean, I tend to hold it up here. I don't know, you could hold it back here, I suppose. But it's not a bothersome step is all I'm saying. All right, let's put all the caps back on, and then we'll do a writing sample, and we'll get out of here. Okay, so let's do a little bit of a test writing. I've been waving this around for 20 or 30 minutes, so let's go ahead and make sure it actually still writes. Yeah, there we go. Start right up. Just a little bit of a hesitation at the beginning, but as I said, I've been waving around uncapped for about half an hour, so that's not bad, actually. Let's get a little bit closer just because we can. Okay, so this is the Franklin-Christoph. Four, five, one, and this is a broad nib. Actually, it's steel. And as I said, this was tuned for me by my wife, Audrey, who's one of the Franklin-Christoph folks, and she does a great job on these. She knows exactly how I like it, which is kind of broad and kind of wet. This is also Franklin-Christoph Sweet Maroon. Which is a go-to for me. So as far as regular old writing, you can see this guy keeps up with no problem. If you have experience with Franklin-Christoph nibs, they do great work adjusting them. The nibs and feeds are great, and they can totally do slow writing, of course. I've been writing a little bit slow, but not super slow. It's kind of my normal writing speed. But also, for fast writing, no problem. If you just want to do like loops and swirls, whatever the thing is. Write your name, all the things. No problems in this guy at all. So this is a great pen with a great nib on it, and if you like the shape, I would say go ahead and be looking for these soon. They are, it seems, sold out on their website, but they are making more from what I hear, so definitely worth checking out. And as I said, these are only going for $115 right now, so that is the initial pen offering price, and that does tend to go up eventually. So one last thing. Thank you to all my patrons. Let's give you a thanks. There you go, patrons, for signing up to be patrons and giving a guy who's just making videos on the internet a little bit of cash to go to pin shows and all this kind of stuff. And thank you, of course, to Franklin-Christoph and all their folks for letting me borrow this pen for review. I'll be sad to give it back because I have kind of gotten attached to this guy. I'm hoping secretly for show prototypes in Atlanta. Speaking of pen shows, I will be in Atlanta this next weekend. After that, I'll be in the Chicago show. I'll be at the St. Louis show. I'll be at DC. I'll be at Dallas. I'll be at San Francisco. I'm going to be at a lot of shows coming up, only skipping a couple in there. So come see me at a show and come say hi, and I will see y'all later. Peace out. All right. Third time's the charm, right? Right. Let's Let's do this. Hello, folks, and welcome to Inkdependence.com. I'm Mike.